My friends, as the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, is regrouping for a massive counter-offensive against Hamas, even though we're only at day 6 of the fighting, I think we can already draw some conclusions. So here are some military lessons of the Israel-Hamas war. My friends, what happened in Israel is unacceptable. I'm still in disbelief of the barbaric actions of Hamas. I think nobody expected how far they would be ready to go. My thoughts and prayers to the people of Be'eri. Long story short, the catastrophic events that unfolded over the weekend was a display of how unprepared even such a strong army as the IDF can be against a couple hundreds of determined and well-prepared terrorists. So the first obvious lesson is to never underestimate your enemy. Tzahal, the armed forces of Israel, clearly thought their longtime enemy to be incapable of such an offensive. Even Egypt warned Israel, and Israel rejected the advice. Achi, why didn't you listen? It was also foolish to think that Palestinian forces of HMS could not become as lethal as their Lebanese counterparts of HZB in terms of manpower, tactics, and equipment. The Palestinians learned and simply leveled up. They went from throwing rocks to throwing hundreds of missiles. They went from making homemade hummus to an entire arsenal of homemade weapons, like the Mubar 1 air defense unguided rockets, the 114mm Rajum short-range missile system. We also know that they made use of Cornet anti-tank missiles, and they even have their own Al-Zawari kamikaze drones. Just like the HZB did in Lebanon, they built countless tunnels and underground firing positions for cover.
Oh shit, here we go again.
We also have to discuss the evident weaknesses of Israel's intelligence services. Oh wow, Mossad here, Mossad there, with all their Netflix documentaries, Fauda, all their technology, surveillance systems, their drones. How come they didn't see what was coming? They will know about the kinky things I'm sending out, but not about concentrations of enemy troops about to invade them. At the same time, HMS did everything to stay on the low in the past months and years. And like that, para, they prepared their attack in the shadows. In August 2022 and again in May 2023, there were clashes between Israel and the Palestinian IJ faction in Gaza. But Hamas stood on the side, giving a false impression to Israel that the group was becoming moderate. This upsec and seeming compliance by HMS in Gaza led Israeli intelligence to focus their attention somewhere else. For example, in the north of the country near the Lebanese border against HZB. This threat was confirmed in May 2023 when HZB staged military exercises and war games aimed at Israel. And I heard that because of this, a good number of IDF forces were redeployed from the south to the north. Welcome to History Legends, and here are the latest news of the Israel-Palestine war. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. As you know, some of my videos have been targeted with limited or no ads, just like the last one. So make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal to keep the show running. Thank you to everyone that has already helped. And welcome to the headquarters. I think that the most important lesson for the West, and that they should take very seriously, is just how much damage a well-organized group of insurgents can inflict with rudimentary military equipment they can buy on the black market. The Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, was outplayed by just a couple hundreds of guys equipped with AK-47s, various heavy machine guns like the PKM or the Type 80, RPGs. Some of those were upgraded with PG-7VR tandem charge warheads to penetrate hardened structures. But long story short, there's nothing crazy about these light infantry weapons. Those are pretty standard for insurgents all over the world. Even tractors were used to break defenses and open up paths. We also saw the use of many mortars of all sizes, and often very well camouflaged. In terms of troop transports, they mostly use motorcycles, countless pickups, and various civilian cars. And with that, they achieved a budget-friendly Blitzkrieg. Toyota, they do make very good vehicles. Anyway, that's also how the Palestinians got their hands on multiple MILFs, or Motorized Infantry Light Force. I promise you it sounds better in Arabic. There's a video of one of these MILF units with 6 pickups with each 4 to 5 infantrymen just roaming around the countryside. Right there, that's about a platoon of 30 fighters. And they had dozens of those. Moments later, they were dismounted and we see them push forward towards the enemy, where they then split up in small fire teams of 5 to 6 men, which then allowed them to encircle Israeli compounds from multiple directions. Nothing of this is new, but what they achieved was only possible with a high level of structure and organization. Just like in Ukraine, HMS officers had a command center that had dozens of drones in the air. And that's how they coordinated every unit during the attack on a tactical level in real time. And we all saw the importance of drones, UAVs in Ukraine. Yet enemy drones could freely fly over the lines of the #1 army of the Middle East. They flew right above armored vehicles, various guard towers, automatic machine gun turrets, radio stations, everything along the border. They dropped their load on it. More and more insurgents across the world are now using grenade-dropping drones. How come the IDF did not adapt to this growing threat? How come Tzahal did not have any electronic warfare assets active? Where were all the drone jammers? There were absolutely no countermeasures for the guys on the ground against these UAVs. Even now, when I see images of Israeli troops preparing their counteroffensive, there's absolutely no anti-drone protection, and all the vehicles are parked side by side in open ground. They clearly learned nothing from the war in Ukraine. Now we have to admit that such low-tech forces are perfect for guerrilla warfare, but they would get shredded in conventional war. So the follow-up military lesson is the importance of the surprise effect during an offensive. We cannot quantify it, but the shock factor has its significance. For example, the moment Ukraine announced to the entire world when and where they would strike, they completely threw away this crucial factor. So when the Palestinian troops in Gaza launched Operation Al-Aqsa Floods on October 7th, nobody saw it coming. Clearly, preparations for this attack have been years in the making, and the Palestinians came up with new ways to bypass Israeli defensive measures, instead of using tunnels to infiltrate its fighters deep into Israeli territory. This time they brought their demolition squads just behind the fences and walls. And that bypassed any vibration detectors that would just start at the border. In order to breach the first layer of defense, they also used speedboats right along the beaches and disembarked entire units right on the shores of Ashkelon, a major city of 130,000 inhabitants. And at the same time, they also sent entire teams of motorized paragliders to move even more troops behind this barrier wall, but also very far inland. For example, to reach the Re'im base, 5 kilometers from the border of Gaza, these motorized paragliders would only need about 13 minutes. And the fact that they fly slowly right above the tree line makes them almost immune to Israel's air defense capabilities. How do you think people reacted when they saw those Marines disembark in Ashkelon, or those paragliders deep inside Israel's territory, apart from the human cost? In other disasters that we can suppose the Palestinians captured very important communications equipment, such as radios and various encoders. This is very problematic for the IDF because they heavily rely on technology alone. So HMS struck right where it hurts. According to the casualty reports, they even managed to attack the positions of the 947th Missile Defense Battalion, aka a unit of the Iron Dome. They destroyed all the radio towers and observation points along the border, thus leaving the Israeli defense blind to their movements. And as you can imagine, this increased the shock factor. Even the automatic turrets could not function properly. That's how entire Palestinian columns just poured into the breach. Now, on the morning of October 7th, when the central Israeli HQ received all the reports of the attack, you can imagine the panic. They must have thought they got overwhelmed by thousands and thousands of enemies. All of a sudden, Palestinians were reported everywhere, at this place, that one, and that one as well. And this probably paralyzed the entire chain of command, which preferred to keep all its reserves at the rear, pull back all the troops for defensive positions.